Iran has renewed its retaliatory attacks in Gulf and in Israel after new strikes targeted its leaders. Let's take a look at what's the latest in the ongoing war in West Asia. Iran expanded its retaliatory missile and drone barrage across the West Asia. An Iranian drone attack struck near the U.S. Consulate in Dubai, starting a fire but inflicting no casualties. The attacks came a day after strikes on the U.S. embassies in Riyadh and Kuwait City, as Washington ordered diplomats to evacuate. Interceptions lit up the night sky over Jerusalem late Tuesday as constant rocket salvos from Iran continued. Non-stop Iranian missile fire has sent residents in various areas in Israel in and out of shelters throughout recent days. Air raid sirens rang out across multiple parts of Israel overnight as the military worked to intercept incoming Iranian fire. There were no immediate reports of significant impact, although police said munitions fell in the Tel Aviv area, where one woman suffered mild shrapnel injuries. Israel's military launched another broad wave of strikes on targets in Iran. The military said the targets of its latest strikes include Iranian launch sites, air defense systems, and additional infrastructure. The U.S. military says it has struck nearly 2,000 targets so far in Iran. Admiral Brad Cooper of U.S. Central Command claimed that American forces have severely degraded Iran's air defenses and destroyed hundreds of Iran's ballistic missiles, launchers, and drones. Well, he also claimed that U.S. has destroyed 17 Iranian ships. Cooper said in simple terms, "We are focused on shooting all the things that can shoot at us," detailing uncontested surgical strikes by B-2 and B-1 bombers.
In the opening hours of Operation Epic Fury, U.S. Central Command forces, together with Israel, delivered overwhelming and unprecedented strikes into Iran. Many of you may remember the shock and awe strikes of 2003. The first 24 hours of this operation were nearly double the scale, and we continue with 24/7 strikes into Iran from seabed to space and cyberspace. Now, we're less than 100 hours into this operation, and we've already struck nearly 2,000 targets with more than 2,000 munitions.
The U.S. military has identified 4 American soldiers killed in the early days of the war with Iran. These soldiers were part of U.S. Army Reserve troops assigned to the 103rd Sustainment Command. They were named as Captain Cody Cork, Sergeant Noah L. Tierchen, Sergeant Nicole Armour, and Sergeant Declan Cody. The soldiers were killed on March 1st at the port of Shuaibah, Kuwait, during a drone attack. For more on this, we are being joined live by David M. Littman from Boston. He is a U.S. Media Research Manager at the Committee for Accuracy in Middle East Reporting and Analysis and West Asia Analyst. Well, thank you so much, David, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Right, David. So, we just heard that U.S. assets in West Asia are under attack. So, according to you, what are the likely future developments that we are seeing?
So I think where things are going to be going in the near future, we have already seen U.S. and Israeli strikes focus, first on targets of opportunity, being the Iranian leadership to cut off the head of the snake, so to speak. Then the focus has been on eliminating the Iranian military's ability to harm its neighbors, to harm U.S. assets in the region, as well as to harm Israel, focusing on the ballistic missiles, the missile launchers. As time goes on and the ability of Iran to cause harm to its neighbors is increasingly eroded, I suspect the targets are going to more focus on Iran's internal apparatus of oppression, focusing on, for example, the besieged militia, the IRGC forces focused on maintaining the regime's grip on the Iranian people.
Right, and David, how will the Iran's interim leadership council balance the constitutional requirements to elect a successor?
I suspect we have seen the Council follow up with the supposed constitutional requirement of replacing the Ayatollah or the supreme leader with the three-man team involving the president, the judiciary chief, and a member of the religious council. And supposedly today they elected, or the council elected as the new supreme leader, the son of the Ayatollah. And this came after a strike that actually hit the council as they were voting on this. This is unfortunate news for the people of Iran, assuming, if the regime is somehow able to maintain its grip. The Ayatollah's son is a hardliner who is well connected with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, who certainly would like to keep their authoritarian grip on the country and on the people, as well as their grip on the vast economic network they have built up through corruption, draining resources from the rest of the country.
Right. David, does the remaining leadership have enough authority to sustain the blockade, or has the loss of senior figures left the regime too divided, to mount a coordinated military response?
It's difficult to say with real certainty, but we are seeing a lot of signs that the ability of the regime and the military to respond effectively in a coordinated fashion simply hasn't existed since the war began. We have seen, for example, the Iranian figure Larijani claimed that, I believe it was a foreign minister, Arakchi, claim that the strikes on Oman, for example, were not meant, that these were standing orders that were issued prior to the war in the case of the death of the leadership. That's essentially an admission that they no longer control the situation. And as time goes on, the American and Israeli strikes are going to further degrade the ability of the Iranian military and the Iranian leadership to effectively coordinate their response.
Correct. And, is the operation at nuclear facilities that we are hearing about intended to provoke the regime collapse in Iran, or is it a tactical effort to permanently destroy Iran's nuclear breakout capacity before a new leadership can consolidate, whereas we've just heard that, IAEA said that, they don't have that much nuclear capabilities as of now?
The operation in June of 2025 was very effective in pushing back the Iranian nuclear program for quite a while. Of course, Iran retains the knowledge, and so the threat remains, even if the infrastructure had been severely eroded. What the Iranian regime did in order to maintain its threat to the region and its threat to the United States, to Israel and beyond, was to rethink its defensive posture by focusing on its ballistic missile program, as well as trying to rebuild its network of terrorist proxies around the region, from Hezbollah to the Houthis to Hamas to the militias in Iraq. We saw that even as the Iranian economy was tanking, and as we see the emergence of environmental disasters in the country, the water crisis that has been emerging, the Iranian leadership has instead been doubling down on sending money to these terrorist groups abroad. And so the threat of its nuclear weapon program remains, but in many ways, over the last 6-7 months since the 12-day war, so to speak, the threat has morphed into other elements, such as the ballistic missile program, and the proxies have become much more prioritized.
Right, and let's talk about the Strait of Hormuz and the global oil markets. Well, we see that U.S. Navy operation in the Strait of Hormuz to reopen has calmed the global oil markets. Do you think, from your perspective, or will attacking Iranian targets make prices rise even more and turn the area into a long-term war zone?
In the short term, yes, it would be unavoidable that oil prices and gas prices will go up. Iran has the ability to, at the very least, scare away insurers of these ships that would traverse the Straits of Hormuz. The American military has destroyed effectively the Iranian military, but they still, or the Iranian Navy, I should say, but the Iranian military still possesses tools that can harass and still cause damage to a lot of oil tankers that may be passing through, whether it's drones or anti-ship missiles. And we have also seen them launch missiles and drones at oil and gas facilities in places like Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE. And there has been damage to some infrastructure. So yes, prices will go up for a time. I don't think long-term the Iranian regime will be able to maintain an effective closure on the region, especially as the U.S. military moves more assets in to help keep the straits open.
Right, and from some reports, we have been hearing that OPEC production hike of 206,000 barrels per day cannot physically reach the market while the strait is closed, because that's what they've been projected, and they have to do it starting from April. Is the move a genuine attempt to stabilize prices, or merely a gesture to signal alignment with the US while waiting for the Navy to forcibly, reopen the strait?
I suspect it is a genuine effort. And the markets around the world, or oil producers, gas producers around the world, do possess the ability to make up at least a substantial portion of the loss that we are going to be seeing in production and exports around the world. Certainly, the United States possesses a strong ability to ramp up oil exports, gas exports. We're seeing Venezuela, after the U.S. operation there, has also begun having an effect on the oil markets as well. So I think the oil producers, the gas producers will find a way to help bridge the gap in the meantime. Long term, it's the Middle East, and so one must wait and see.
Right, and President Donald Trump has said that this war might go on for more than 4 weeks, and in some reports we've been hearing that interceptors might go out of stock, while the Iranians might strike them more. So, how do you think this would shape the future of where we are heading in terms of the war?
So the interceptor issue has been a known issue for the United States, certainly for Israel, which has expended many of its air defense interceptors, not just against Iran in the current war, but in the 12-day war last year, and against Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis. So stockpiles are certainly running low, and there have been efforts to invigorate the production supply chain. What I see both the U.S. and Israel doing is focusing on eliminating Iran's ability to fire missiles, focusing on the launchers, as we've seen. There's reports that they may be down just to several dozen launchers. But it is a game of attrition to an extent about who is going to run out first, and there may be a period in which allies of the United States in the region, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Israel, are going to may have to bear the brunt for a little bit while the operation finishes, eliminating Iran's ability to fire missiles.
Right. Well, thank you so much, David, for joining us today and letting us know your insights on this. And we are just waiting for more developments to shape, and then maybe we'll get you back on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.